Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Purple Sector podcast for today's episode where we are going to be going through the 2023 British Grand Prix. My name's Isa,
And I'm Yusuf.
and we're going to be going through everything that happened in that Grand Prix. Quite an interesting one, if I do say so myself. But what was your summary of it?
My summary. So it was Verstappen on pole and Lando on his home race, on the front row, just beside him. Very good friends. And Lando just jumped Verstappen at the start and kept the lead for how many laps was it? Like 2 or 3 laps?
5 laps, I think.
5 laps. Oh wow.
Until the DRS came on
Yeah,
and
yeah.
protected for a couple of laps, but then Verstappen just flew by.
Yes, it was very good from Lando. And then there was a lot of overtaking. There was some very good strategy calls by the Ferrari. Shock. And then Magnussen, his engine just went kaput. And there was a big safety car. So there was a virtual safety car for a bit. And then there was a big safety car when they were using a recovery vehicle to get rid of that hass off the racetrack. And then we went racing again. And it was very, very fun.
So if you could describe that Grand Prix in what word, what would you say?
I don't really know, to be honest. Exciting, exhilarating at times. Very interesting.
See, you say that, but to be honest, I wasn't really feeling it all that much. Like, I get that.
Especially after the safety
No,
car.
but I get that there was that Norris and Verstappen fight at the start, but it was just inevitable that Verstappen was always just going to fly by, even on the safety car restart. You just knew what would happen. And yeah, it did make it interesting with the safety car when it came to pit strategies and things like that. Some very dodgy things going on, McLaren and Ferrari. So yeah, but it was interesting of a sort, but it wasn't a highlight of the season. I think the highlight of the season still got to probably go to, I'd say Monaco or Canada maybe.
Yeah. It's very interesting that you say that Ferrari and McLaren went for bad strategies, but because I thought that they went for very, very good strategies. Those hards were the only new tyres that they had left, and even though there was only like 12 laps left, for some reason they did go into the hards, but it didn't really push them back any more than it
I thought it
probably
was the
would have.
McLarens that went onto the hods.
Yeah, they did. So did
Oh, yeah.
Ferrari as well. It didn't push them back. I think the whole top 10 stayed where it was after the apart from Alonso. I
Except
think.
for Gasly as well. Gasly.
Oh, Leclerc did drop 3 places in 3 corners.
No, that was Sainz.
Oh, Sainz, yeah.
And Gasly as well retired. Horrible day for Alpine. So why don't we go through them first? Then we'll go through Alpine. Our first team of the day, Alpine.
What even happened to Alpine? I don't really know.
Yeah, you won't know because it was a double DNF. Ocon was gone in the first 10 laps, and then Gasly was gone after.
Oh yeah, I remember that. They
and
just
then,
wheeled him in.
Yeah, and then Gasly was gone in the last few laps of the race. It was an absolutely dismal day for Alpine, and their base is in Britain, isn't it?
Brackley, I think.
No, not Brackley. That's Aston Martin. It's near
No, I'm pretty sure Aston Martin's Silverstone and Alpine's Brackley.
Alpine's Enstone. So
Right,
in Great Britain, and it was a really poor home race for them. Yeah, there was a real struggle, and in the end, I think Ocon had hydraulic issues, so they called him into the pits, and then Gasly had an absolutely bumper battle with Stroll.
Was that when he hit him going into the loop?
So basically what happened was
I think it was the loop, yeah.
So what happened was Stroll first, it was the first time a Stroll corner where Stroll went off and gained an advantage, and he should have got a 5-second time penalty. In I think everyone was thinking that, but then for some reason the FIA took no further investigation into it, which was really surprising. And then what happened was, going into the Vale chicane, actually, I think it was Vale, not Loop. The Loop. Going into Vale, the last corner, he just barreled into Stroll. So Stroll went off. Stroll comes back on. I just went straight into Gasly, who went off and he broke his suspension. You can immediately see it.
You could see that he was like trying to fight with the steering because he was going straight.
Yeah, so he broke
his pointing his steering wheel like to the left.
So he broke his suspension, which was really disappointing for Alpine. Misery for them. And in a day where their rivals in the championship, McLaren, in the constructors, had P2 and P4 in the end, that is really not ideal for them. They needed some good points, especially when McLaren were looking so strong with the upgrades. They're only marginally ahead of McLaren at the moment, so they really do. This race would have taken a huge hit on their constructors hopes for 5th place. But yeah, it's a horrible weekend, but they're just gonna have to move on and go into Hungary. Now let's look near the top, and we'll go first with McLaren. What an absolutely brilliant weekend for them. It was just overall amazing. I can't. I was so happy for them. The fact that they were able to pull this off just out of the blue, they've been really poor so far this season, and then out of the blue they just come and steal a podium at Silverstone. I mean, why not? First time on the podium at Silverstone in a very long time, I think it was. Wasn't it? That was the start of something like that, but yeah,
Yeah, since Hamilton in 2009, I think, crossed this.
2012 or something.
No,
Mm,
I think front row since 2012 Hamilton.
and the first podium
Yeah,
since
something like that.
2012 or something like that. It was really amazing for McLaren. Everyone couldn't have been happy for them unless you're an LP fan.
Yeah, because I think Norris has just leapfrogged Ocon in the championship, which isn't very good for Alpine or Ocon. So they won't be very happy about that one.
Yeah, brilliant day for McLaren. And another team who had a brilliant day, you could say, it was Mercedes, especially when
Oh
you look
yeah.
at their starting positions, P6 and P7. Hamilton at turn 3, I think it was, straight off the bat, had a went off track and he dropped down to P10 or P9, and then. Obviously they get a bit of luck with the safety car, but he managed to work his way through the field. Brilliant comeback from him to get into P3. So looking at Hamilton's race, he did drop down to P9, but then he made a few overtakes, got the Aston Martin and Fernando Alonso, and managed to climb his way back through the field. And one thing that was really helpful to him was because he hadn't pitted by the time the safety car came out, and then the safety car did come out, and it was just the most perfect time you could have asked for.
Mm.
And he came out P3, and I think he went onto softs, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I think he did go into soft. So it was a brilliant strategy call from them. And then looking at Russell's race, started P6, who was locked in an intense duel with Leclerc from start to finish, basically. They were fighting before and after safety car. And in the end, Russell did manage to jump Leclerc, who fell back through the field to P9, which is really disappointing for the Ferraris. They were looking strong this weekend, weren't they?
Yeah, they were, and they came P4 and P5, if I'm not mistaken, in qualifying, and yeah, I think I mentioned that Leclerc dropped three. No, sorry, I keep on saying Leclerc. Sainz dropped 3 places in 3 corners, which was crazy because he just kept on tumbling down the order. And I don't know what it was. Maybe lack of pace. Maybe he was just harvesting, and everybody else behind him was just going for it. But he did jump from a couple of points, a couple of places, not points, down.
Yeah.
By the way, we said that Gasly was out. He wasn't apparently.
No, he was out. He pitted.
According to this,
He is out, but obviously because he DNF so late in the race, it counted as being six laps. He was lapped 6 times, but he actually did DNF. He was taken into the pits, but I don't
all
think
right,
it classifies as a full DNF because of how late he ended up DNFing.
all right.
But yeah, he did DNF from the race. Really poor for Gasly and Alpine. But yeah, the Mercedes boys, I think they'll take that. But Ferrari, they started ahead of the Mercedes, and it just fell away from them. To be honest, if you start P4 and P5 and P6 and P7 are the two Mercedes, how do you fall to P9 and P10 when the Mercedes are P3 and P5? It's just unacceptable from Ferrari, and again, it was just another strategy blunder, which is disappointing for them, isn't it?
Yes, very disappointing. And to be honest, when they made their first 2 pit stops for Sainz and Leclerc, they did pretty well with those pit stops because they pitted very early. Leclerc pitted before Russell, who's on old softs, which was very weird because Leclerc was on new mediums, and nobody really knew why. But they did because Leclerc was behind Russell, I think, when they pitted. And then when Russell did eventually pit, Leclerc was ahead of Russell, which meant that the strategy worked. But then because Russell was on newer, softer tires by then, he just overtook him again. So it kind of messed that whole thing up. And then Leclerc's the only driver to have pitted twice in the full top 10. And I don't, I think that was in the safety car, was it? That he pitted the second time. Because he'd already pitted before the
Yeah,
safety
yeah.
car.
So he pitted right before the safety car, and came back out again, and then he went into pit.
Yeah.
And again, he was locked in another intense duel, and he was locked in one with Russell for a while until I think the safety car period, and then he was in a battle with Albon. And there was a little train there with Leclerc, Albon, and Russell. Not a train, but like a small battle going on there where they were really close together and they were all fighting for the track position. And it was a mighty battle between them. It was really enjoyable. And like we say, it might not be competitive out in the front. Verstappen might be sailing ahead by 10, 20, 30, 40, maybe even 60 seconds. Who knows? It's just
But it
getting
is
stronger, that Red Bull.
very competitive at the back. That's the fun
In
thing.
the midfield, there is some really good fights going on. And when you look at the constructor standings, you have Perez fighting Alonso for P2 in the championship. You have the Mercedes fighting the Ferraris. You have Alpine and McLaren. And then at the bottom, you have those fights where Williams are doing quite well this season. So, it's not like it's just a completely horrible, boring, utterly pointless season. Still things going on and still really interesting fights in the midfield. But I think overall, it was just another absolutely brilliant performance from Red Bull and by Verstappen. Although it wasn't because of the safety car, it wasn't a full blooded absolute washout from them because they only ended up winning by like 4 seconds. Um, yeah, so it wasn't exactly what they used to, but it was again amazing from Red Bull. And then Sergio Perez, though, where did he start? P15. He started P15, didn't he?
16 or 15,
No,
yes,
yeah, he started P15, and he ended up falling through the field, getting through the field, but he was only to P6. And when you're in that rocket ship of a car, it's just unacceptable to
It
be
is
honest.
unacceptable.
But I think when you actually look at it, this is absolutely unbelievable, right? Max Verstappen, alone with his points, the amount of points that he's amassed on his own, is enough to be leading the constructors' championship for Red Bull. Like you don't even
Yeah.
need Perez in that team.
I think
Verstappen is doing it all.
I think if anybody, so from now on, apparently, I don't know how true this is. If Verstappen gets second every single race, and it doesn't matter who comes first every single race from now on, he will win the championship. I don't know how true that is, but apparently that's what would happen if he came second every single race from now on. That just shows how dominant he is this season. And I mean, Perez put up a early title fight ish, and it's just fallen away, and it's starting to become unacceptable. And obviously, there's those people who say, "Oh, maybe they just don't want Perez to put up a title fight, and things like that." But also, they've been actually, you know how people have been saying, "Oh, we need to change the rules to stop Red Bull from being so
Yeah,
dominant." They're using Perez as saying, "Well, maybe it's just our driver. Maybe Verstappen's really good because Perez in this car can't do what
yeah,
Verstappen's
yeah,
doing."
yeah.
So I think so. They apparently they're using this argument like with the FIA to stop them from changing rules to peg them back. I don't know who I heard that from, but I heard that from somebody.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, another team. Let's just go to the lower teams and look at some of the lower teams. And
let's have a look at Williams.
yeah, why not? Williams, absolutely brilliant for them. Logan Sargent, right? I want to give this guy an honorable mention. He finished P11, so close, so painfully
I
close to
know.
points for Logan Sargent. He was only 2 seconds off the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz. Like, can you imagine? Can you imagine? That would have been absolutely amazing if we got his first points in Silverstone in the World Championship, and it was so annoying. But
Williams been so bad this year, like
no, they haven't.
especially Sargent.
No,
Sargent,
Sargent's been struggling a bit, but Albon has been on the pace all the time. He's got amassed quite a lot of points. So, it's not all down to the car. I think it's just down to the driver. Sargent's been struggling a bit. But this was a good race for him. I don't know how much strategy played into his good result. But yeah, Albon, P8, absolutely brilliant. And Williams will probably be taking that all day long. Another team, and let's look at it. Another dismal race for Alpha Tauri.
oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what happened where Yuki Tsunoda was finishing in the points, doing some amazing things. You'd see him on
He
track.
wasn't really finishing the points. He was finishing in P11. He seemed to
Yeah,
love P11.
you'd see him, on the TV screen and on Sky Sports F1, but now you just don't see him at all. And the AlphaTauris are the two bottom drivers of the finishers because the P16 and P17, and then P18 to P20 is all the non-finishers, the DNFs. So yeah, it was just a again horrible race for AlphaTauri. Again, I'm not really sure how much they did get screwed over by the safety car because that must have played a big part in some of the team's downfalls. And then so let's move on then to Aston Martin.
Oh,
God, what has happened? Like they used to be the second best team. Alonso was right there at the top. He was the only one being able to challenge Max Verstappen, and now finishing in P7, just
and
being
now
nowhere all
suddenly
race.
McLaren are challenging Red Bull.
Yeah, and then you've got Lance Stroll finishing in P14. P14. There were only 3 drivers behind him who were part of the finishers. That again, like, what is Lance Stroll doing? I think there's a point where honestly, this guy needs to get kicked out of his team, of his dad's team. It's just
Yeah.
so bad.
The thing is, I don't really know if everybody else has taken a step forward, like Mercedes and McLaren and Ferrari have taken a step forward, and Aston Martin have just like ran out of money because they spent it all in the summer, or maybe they've just
Yeah, they've fallen off a bit. Yeah.
made a new car or done something new and something's just not worked. And I think if it's that, they need to revert back to what it was. And if it's the other one, then I think they are in big trouble.
Yeah, it's really fallen off Aston Martin, which is really disappointing to see because I had really high hopes that
Yeah.
Alonso could be challenging for P2. But at the moment, I'm not 100% sure how that's going to go because he finished only a place behind Perez, but he did qualify so much better than Perez. So I don't know if it's just the race pace for them where it's just falling off, but hopefully they can get that sorted out. Another team, Haas, one of their drivers, DNF, not really much to say about them. Hulkenberg P13, pretty much an an anonymous race for them. And Magnussen, he's the one who caused the safety car with a huge fire coming out of his back. That was a bit scary, but he managed to escape unscathed.
I don't know what's going on with those Haas power units, because I remember in qualifying, just off Stowe, went over the curb.
Oh, wasn't that Magnussen who also had a problem yesterday?
Yeah, it was. That's what I'm saying. His engine just died, and then here his engine just went kaput.
Again,
yeah.
Stop saying kaput. You're not.
You're
not David Croft.
You're not David Croft. Said, so I'm gonna say it because it sounded quite funny when he said it. But yeah, was it Stowe in qualifying?
It was Stowe, and then today it was on the Wellington Straight. Oh, and by the way, one thing that I do want to talk about just before we finish off, Alfa Romeo, again, so close to points, so close. Bottas, P12. Honestly, like, I know that we don't really talk about them much. They're another anonymous team, but I was watching it today and I could see Bottas in P12 after he had that problem in qualifying yesterday. Remember, he had that problem in qualifying and he was almost gonna get disqualified from qualifying. I'm not sure if he did. I think he did.
He did.
And then he managed to fight his way through to P12. And I was actually watching the race and I was thinking about him. All points on for him, but in the end, nothing ended up materializing. Yeah.
By the way, because I tested Isa on his knowledge of Silverstone corners.
Oh yes.
Yesterday.
There was something I wanted to say about that. I didn't actually name all of the corners. There was quite a few that I missed out. No, not that I missed out, but some I got mistaked on. Some I made a mistake on. So let me do mine, and then you can do yours. So we'll have a go at this each.
I have to write this down.
Yeah, no, stay there. And you know what? You go first because let's see how you do on your own.
What's the first corner called?
All right, fine. We'll start you off Hamilton Straight. Then what?
Hamilton Straight, Abbey, Village.
Yes.
The Loop.
Yep.
Wellington Straight, Brooklands.
Carry on, but you missed out corner, but it's fine.
Yeah, I know. Brooklands, Luffield, Stowe. No,
what's Stowe?
Why do I keep on saying Stowe? What's it called?
The old pit straight.
No, that corner.
Yeah, there's a corner before that.
Yeah, what's that called?
Alright, let's move on.
The hairpin thing. Okay, the old pit straight, Cops, Maggots and Beckett.
Okay, let's move on. Hanger Straight.
Stowe.
Yep.
Vale Chicane.
Yep.
Sir Hamilton Straight.
Yeah. Then sorry. Let me go, and I can name you every single one of them.
Okay. So let me just Google this first.
No. All right. Fine. Go on then. So we start off.
No. Stop.
We start off with the Sir Lewis Hamilton Straight. Sir, don't miss that out. Then you've got Turn 1 Abbey. Then you've got Village. Then you got the Loop. And then you got Aintree, that's one that you missed out, leading onto the Wellington Straight, which then goes to Brooklands. And then after Brooklands, you've got Luffield. And then after Luffield, you've got, it's actually Woodcut. You missed out Woodcut.
You looked at that?
No, I didn't look at that. You got Woodcut, then you've got the Old Pit Straight, then you've got Cops Corner, Maggots and Beckett's, then you got Chapel. You missed out Chapel. Then it's Hanger Straight, Store Corner, and Vale Chicane. And then leading on to the, wait, no, there's a corner before that. There's a corner.
No,
so after Vale Chicane, there's a corner after. I'm sure there's a corner after that because I remember Crofty mentioning it.
Yes.
Something like Club Corner. Is it Club Corner?
It is Club Corner.
Leading on to the Hamilton Straight. Too good. I named them all. Ha. All right. Well then, any last thoughts you want to say?
Very, very good for McLaren. I really wish them the best for the rest of this season, and I really hope they can take the fight to Red Bull.
Yeah.
And so here is,
Well, before we end, let me just say one thing. Oscar Piastri so close to his first ever podium in Formula
yeah.
One. I feel so sorry for him. But P4, that's amazing. Best result of the season so far. And yeah, I do wish him hope when in his future in Formula One. All right, go on then. What do you want to say for your top? You let's just go through the F1 race classification. You go first.
So this is the F1 race classification for the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. So Verstappen came home in first, Lando Norris with a stellar drive in second, Hamilton in third, Piastri in his rookie season in fourth, Russell in fifth, and Perez disappointingly in sixth, Alonso a bit of a meh race in seventh, Albon in eighth, Leclerc in ninth, and Sainz in tenth.
And then for the drivers outside of the points for positions, you got Logan Sargent in 11th, Valtteri Bottas in 12th, Nico Hülkenberg in 13th in the Haas, Lance Stroll in 14th in the Aston Martin, Joe Guan Yu in 15th, Yuki Tsunoda in 16th, Nick De Vries is the last of the finishers in P17, and then the non-finishers, Pierre Gasly, Kevin Magnussen, and rounding out the field, Esteban Ocon. I will thank you so much for listening. And one thing, only one more thing, I promise you, before we end. I remember at the start of the season, I think after Bahrain, you said that Oscar Piastri was the worst of the rookies and that he was a rubbish driver, and that Nick
I
De Vries
never
and
said
Logan
that.
Sargent were both better than him. So take that thought away with
I
you.
never said that Logan Sargent was better than him. I said that De Vries would be better than
You
is
said that
better
he
than
was
him.
an absolutely rubbish rookie. He would never come anything good. And so I'm going to leave you with that thought. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. And we'll be back with more coverage across the week and leading on to the Hungarian Grand Prix in a couple of weeks' time. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.